women who are educated, what we would say, educated women who want to have a job are the ones who will have children later because the work would come first. It makes more sense to get a job and much less sense to stay at home and have babies. So you wait to do it. And it's hard to do it because then you find there's no time that seems right where you can take time off to have a baby.
That is so true.
Strange to say, it was my first book that was, a nonfiction book, and it wasn't poetry, and it was so much fun to write. You mentioned, what was it that was most interesting to me? What did I discover? And it's so hard to say because there were so many, it was more lots of little things, you know.
There's so many word origin story in this book. There's a word, the epiphany. You know epiphany, right? We use a lot of, sometimes it's like epiphanies. I don't know where that word originally come from. Can you explain about the
That word would be Greek. It's definitely a word that is from Greek. It's a sudden enlightenment or a revelation, something that's revealed, you know. We even have a holiday, there's a religious holiday, Epiphany, which is when there was a large revelation or a truth about religion came to be known.
And so what about the serendipity? Do you know serendipity?
I always think of your movie Serendipity with John Cusack.
That's right. Because when I was younger, I watched that movie. Do you know the movie The Serendipity?
Okay, get in, take a breath, and then when the door closes, hit a button.
I don't understand this.
You don't have to understand, you just have to have faith.
Faith in what?
Destiny.
Yeah, long time ago, right? Well, serendipity, now that really surprised me, really, because I think it turned out to be the name of a character in an Indian story, the Indian play, Serendip. I can't remember what his characteristics were. Serendipity means a condition of being like him. Serendipity means sort of by good fortune or by coincidence, by good luck. Since it means that, I am supposing that this character, this Serendip, whoever he was.
We have something in common because I'm also enthusiastic about learning any languages. I used to teach Korean letter, which is called the Hangul, to foreigners. When I was a teacher, they said, I'm not so sure you watch it, the Korean letter. It looks like Tetris, the game, the Tetris. English word is like there are so many the round, but in Korea word very straight is something like that.
Yes, and that's so interesting to me. Why did it develop like that as opposed to like Arabic or something which is all round and curly? Is it because of the implements, the writing implements that were used? A paintbrush or something? It's very much like a grid, or you know, it's all straight lines. I think during trade, when we had the Silk Road that went, we called it that, and the East was able to meet the West and learn something. And they exchanged goods, of course, but they also exchanged cultural things and a certain amount of language. Maybe in India, the women wore the sari, and we don't have anything in this country that talks about that particular garment or that look. I'm trying to think of other Asian words that, of course, when you have to think of something, you can never think of it.
Right. I can find that too. Why asking you about very tricky questions? Sorry about that. Have you ever thought about you have a very special talent on it? When I read your book, it feels like, wow, she has some talent.
I don't know if it's a talent. I think it's something that is one of these qualities or traits that you're born with. When I see a word, or hear a word, I don't just think of it as a word. For example, I was talking about this with some of my daughters today. When I see a word in my brain, I see the word in color. Each letter and number has, in my mind, letter of the alphabet, and each number has a color in my head. So your name, for example, it begins in English with a J. For me, a J is gray.
Why?
I was just born this way. The letter A at the end of the name is a little bit pink, rose pink. And so your name is a nice name to me. I mean, your English name, dull color J. The letter I is yellow to me always. And N is sort of brown. You get a very nice mix of colors. It's not all black. But I think it's not so much talent, really, as a very strong interest.
But you have a real special talent. I've never heard of that, the letter is related to the color. That was so, oh wow. A bit personal question. You said you have 9 children, right?
I did.
Wow. That was so impressive. Fertility rate in Korea.
Yes.
One of the Finland broadcasts asked me to interview. They wanted to know about what Korean women think about marriage and giving a birth. Because I'm still single in 30s. So the BBC, CNN News, they just covered that kind of story. South Korea, the lowest birth rate recently.
Well, first of all, I think that the population is going down. The birth rate is going down in so many countries for economic reasons. I think probably in your country, in South Korea, the population is older. So people are worried about that. But I am very much, I have 9 children, but I'm very much a believer in limiting population, because I think that the population of the world is one of the biggest concerns for the environmental problems we have.
So do you think the whole population in our earth is going to be decreasing in the end?
I do, because women have the ability now, technologically, to limit that. I had all those children because I loved having children, but I don't think it was actually the ethical thing to do, because, the world is overpopulated. So.
Really? Or maybe Chinese, there's the limitation of the giving a birth in China before, right?
Yeah, right.
Your daughter generation, maybe including me, and we don't feel like to give a birth a lot. Like 9 children, I've never imagined about that. So
you have career.
But you also have a career so far. How is it possible to you to do together?
Look back now and I say, I don't know how I could have done that. It must have been impossible. But when you're doing something and you're in the middle of it, it works. Like you have crises at work, and maybe you have a death in the family at the same time as you have a big deadline at work or something. And you just, because you're there in the middle of it, you do it. But it is extremely difficult. Well, women who are educated, and what we would say educated women who want to have a job, young women who want to have a job, are the ones who will have children later, because the work would come first. More sense to get a job and much less sense to stay at home and have babies. So you wait to do it. And it's hard to do it because then you find a time there's no time that seems right where you can take time off to have a baby.
That is so true.
And also now we have more and more people who don't bother to get formally or officially married. They live together, they have children, but marriage seems to be a little bit less important.